Welcome to Lyve Talks, a podcast by Lyve, a tech and logistics company headquartered in Abu Dhabi. On Lyve Talks, we tackle fintech, logistics, business, and best practices in the workplace. I'm Karim Bakhache, the VP of Strategy at Lyve Global, and I will be your host. Welcome to a new episode of Lyve Talks. Today, we're going to be talking about drones delivery, a very trendy topic in the last few years. Joining me today is Dr. Malick J, who's a professor at American University of Sharjah.
Right.
Dr. Malick, if you want to introduce yourself first, and then we can start.
Thank you very much, Karim. Thank you for having me today here. My name, as you said, is Malick Ndiaye. Very briefly, I'm faculty at the American University of Sharjah, professor in the Industrial Engineering Department. If I go back a little bit to where I graduated from France, and from there I moved to the UK, the University of Birmingham. That's where I started my teaching career. Then I moved to King Fahd University, and since 2014 I'm here at the American University of Sharjah. Now my work is mostly funnily, I started from science, pure science kind of, then moved to engineering. And now I'm very much into supply chain management, logistics, and I like to look at also emerging technology and application to logistics.
Interesting. Quite a journey.
Oh.
Maybe I didn't mention before we start that I have a master's in industrial engineering.
Oh, okay.
And I did start in
supply. Welcome to the fun.
And I did start in supply chain management at the beginning of my career.
Oh,
which was a very long,
interesting.
interesting career before I switched to different topics. And I ended up in logistics and technology.
Actually, I didn't start from engineering. I started from kind of more of a math background,
right.
Optimization, location analysis, and you can see that how that applies to supply chain, and that's how I kind of diverted a little bit to supply chain and now logistics, and yeah.
Great. Well, great to have you on TV on Lyve Talks. So what I was saying is today we want to discuss about drones delivery. We've been hearing this topic for quite a few years. I think my first time I've seen drones was on like movies, a very long time. One comes to mind is it's called 5 Elements or Five, a very old movie with Bruce Willis. And and you can see, I can see drones delivering at that time packages to this lady, and at that time it was science fiction. People thought maybe this will never happen, but it's been quite a few years. I'm not sure when exactly when drones became more and more commercially used. And one of the first use cases that came out was obviously delivery, because drones are up there, it's easier, we can deliver from point A to B. But it's been a while, it's been around, and it seems that it's taking its time to become adopted, it's taking time to become mainstream for multiple reasons that we'll be discussing today. So I think today what I wanted to go through with you is, what is this drone delivery? What are the types? What are the key things to launch delivery, for example, in some specific countries, and why is it taking so much time to get it adopted? Maybe we'll start in the US, where the whole thing's usually started, and other countries, and then we'll come back to the UAE and talk about what's happening here. Obviously, if we have also insights on the region, it would be great to share it. So that's what I had in mind. So maybe we'll start from the beginning. Let's talk about drones delivery. Maybe if you want to explain it in simple terms, what it does and what are the different types, because I've been reading that, it's not only about you staying home and waiting for a delivery. There's multiple types of drone delivery.
Well, there are different models in terms of how we can deliver, how we can use, let's say, drones to reach the end user, the customer. The whole objective is basically to find a way to quickly reach our customers, knowing that what we have observed over years is a change in customers' requirement. Okay, let's say 5-10 years ago, when I order something, I expect that to come home after maybe 2 days, 3 days. Yeah. Now everyone wants to order and get things next minute.
Of course.
Now how can we achieve that? Of course, technology is there to drive that change in the mindset of customers. Before internet, no one would think of ordering anything online because there was no online. With internet, we start ordering online. So we have, come to change the perspective of customers about retailing. Yeah. Now that we reached the time where everyone wants things next day, we have to find a way also to make it happen. Now, from next day now, we move to next hour. I order now, I want it now. So how can I achieve that? Now, technology is there to support that. Technology is there to help. And drone, particularly, is one of the, let's say, delivery modes that we expect will help in achieving those customer expectations. Now, what type of drone delivery, what type of drones there are in terms of technology? There are different. I'm not well versed into the technology in terms of type of drones, but what I know is how we can use them to deliver to customers.
Right.
Now, direct delivery is the simplest thing. I mean, you have a warehouse. You as, I mean, for instance, I mean, mainstream, I mean,
consumers,
company, whatever. You can deliver from warehouse to home, as long as the person is not that far.
Correct.
Now, if not, what do? We can combine drones with other delivery modes. Can be the most common one that people are thinking of and people are working on, I mean, doing it is using a van, using a truck, using a moving device, basically, a moving vehicle. Now, combining those, you can see easily that will help use, for instance, the truck as a warehouse.
Right.
Okay. So the idea is to use it either as a fixed location from where you deliver to customers, or having it as a moving warehouse.
Interesting.
Okay. So anything that can move currently can be used to support drone delivery. I can think of a train. If I'm in a rural area, for instance, infrastructure is already there. We can use trains, for instance, to reach the customers. Those models are there also. We can use ship.
Okay.
Like if you look at our coastal area here, okay, in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, we are all next to the sea.
Right.
So I'm sure it will come a day where we'll start using boats, and from boats we reach people using drones. Just think of Palm Jumeirah, for instance. That area will be very much, I think, straightforward to me. I mean, use case where we can use kind of boat or floating barks to reach basically customers. And those will be used as a kind of warehouse, similar in terms of we reach there and then from there we deliver.
Interesting. Okay. And I also read also that it can be used not only direct to consumer, but what they call hub to hub, meaning if they want to get something from one warehouse to another, or maybe one of those mobile warehouses, so you can use the drone in that first step. Exactly. Is that also something being looked at?
Yes, we're looking at those things also. The idea is either you use the drone, for instance, to reach the end user, or assume, for instance, today Lyve is delivering goods to customers. Your van is out to deliver, and then you receive a request. So I can use the drone to reach the van, and the van will finish.
Interesting. Okay.
Will finish the job.
Oh, so it's it's like catching up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a catch up.
So what you mean hub to hub is there, or hub to a moving hub, as you said, I use to reach the van. Or, I mean, combinations are there in terms of type of or ways we have to use drone to complement whatever, let's say, current design you have for your deliveries.
Okay.
It's a matter of designing a service, actually. How you're going to use the drone, there's no one way to use it. Company will have to design or rethink, let's say, their delivery network and add drone into it. How to best do it depends on companies, depends on sometimes the SLAs that you have with others. I mean, there is no one way to do it, but we have to think of the most efficient way given the current delivery service that the company is offering.
But one question I was kind of thinking about was, okay, sounds nice in theory, right? You're going to kind of reach out customers and everything. But then a drone, from what I've seen, can only take one package at a time. Cannot do multiple drops.
That's true.
Because of weight and because of the way it works. So now, are we making things slower because I have to send one drone at a time, or am I thinking now I'm going to send 10 drones in the same time to do deliveries?
That's a very good question. And when you in your introduction, you were asking about limitations of drone delivery today. Now, I think from a technological point of view, we can think of, and there are use cases of that. Big name companies, I don't want to name any because we're not here to name them.
Yeah.
But they are working on, for instance, having vans that can send several drones at a time.
Right.
You are thinking in the sense of one delivery at a time, because we are right now formatted to do that.
Correct.
But there are use cases where drones can deliver 2, 3 customers at a time. It's a matter of design. It's a matter of, also size of packages. It's a matter of what we're trying to move. But drone can lift today up to 15 kg.
Okay. So that
depends on the type of applications.
Right.
Okay. Also depends on the regulation.
Interesting.
But in terms of, let's say, what research is doing today is looking at these multiple deliveries. Also, design of, let's say, trucks or vans that can send several drones at the same time.
Okay.
At least from a design perspective, from a research point of view, those solutions are almost there now.
And is there a vertical that you've seen where it's, when I say vertical, meaning a sector where you've seen drones adapted quicker? I mean, the use of drones, because we're going to talk about adoption later on. But is there a sector where you've seen it much more stickiness is there?
Currently, I think it's healthcare.
Healthcare.
For a very, very simple reason. Very simple reason. I'm not sure about that, but at least we can see that when it comes to healthcare, we're using drone right now to send medical equipment sometimes, lab tests, this type of things.
Okay.
Right now, everything is fixed. The lab is fixed. Hospitals are fixed.
Right.
We know the locations.
Correct.
It's easy to handle that.
Yeah. And
now, the moment we start talking about customers knowing the location, the guy lives in a building, high-rise building, or he lives. The problem becomes completely different.
Of course.
So currently, most of the applications that are, let's say, well known are in the healthcare sector.
Very nice.
Even here in Abu Dhabi, the Department of Health is piloting a service between the hospitals and all the healthcare facilities to build a complete network. We're hoping that by next year, I think should be out. They already did some tests. Phase 1 test.
So there is already progress on the healthcare.
Yeah, healthcare. Also, if you remember, you're asking me about one industry, that will be healthcare.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So I think we've covered now what types and kind of a bit what this whole drone delivery is. Now, if you think about the key elements, like if we think, to launch drone delivery, these are the things that we need to have in place. Obviously, there's technology that you mentioned multiple times, but maybe let's mention what else is required to launch drone delivery.
From an industry perspective, it's different from a technology perspective. Technology, I think, is probably not ready for everything.
Okay.
But we have good knowledge about at least a minimum level of service. Now, from the industry point of view, logistic industry, for instance, regulation, I think, is one of the key things that we need to look at.
Okay.
Regulation, I don't think, is ready, because maybe also part of the technology that is needed to support this massive implementation of drone, we're talking about massive implementation, is not yet there. If you are talking about piloting sending a drone to a house, everyone can do that.
Right.
But the minute we start talking about, let's say, 20 companies sending drones, like what you see right now with motorcycles, we are not yet there.
Right.
Because the level of control that it needs, the level of communication, those infrastructure is not yet there.
Is it mostly air regulation that we're talking about, or is it there's other? Obviously, there's safety regulations which everybody is very aware of. Like you don't want drones falling from the sky on you.
Exactly.
That's one thing. But I'm thinking air regulations, because at the end you're going to be using the airspace. So this becomes very tricky in any, and not only here in the UAE, but in any country. When you start using air, countries become a bit more nervous about it, because things are flying and you have airplanes and you have helicopters and you have other things, you have buildings. So you can see where a bit of the nervousness of these countries are. Is that the main point here, or is this other angle?
No, there is current regulation for using drones.
Right.
In the UAE, for instance, and worldwide in many countries. There are two types of, let's say, regulations in terms of commercial or recreational. Now, if you go today in the website of the regulator, you can see the map here of UAE, where you can use drone for recreational activities, you can use it for commercial. It's already there.
Correct.
Now, between that and implementation and widespread implementation, there is a gap.
Okay.
The main issue here is this is my point of view, right? Regulation is ready in terms of telling you what you can do from what you cannot do. And more or less, if you compare the countries between here, US, Europe, and so the regulation is covering more or less the same type of characteristic and parameters, the like of, for instance, the weight you can lift, for instance, the maximum weight you can lift, that goes, let's say, from 15 to 25 kgs.
Right.
This is up to 150, depends on countries. Also, maximum speed. Those are technical characteristics that usually is covered by the regulation. Now, beside that, will come another set of regulation if you are talking about wide implementation. How this drone will communicate. We're talking about safety, and safety is a major concern for everyone, of course. Okay, how these drones will communicate. How would I know that when I launch take a company like Lyve, you send your drones out. How many are you going to send? Maybe 20? Which route? Okay.
Yeah, of course.
You have 20 companies like Lyve sending their drones.
Now, what
type of traffic management? Those things are not yet ready.
So that would take time, because this is
that
tricky.
may take time, but there are solutions to it. People are working into, developing solutions. We at AUS, for instance, right now, I'm working on a research program where we're trying to assess the current regulation. Also, we intend to talk to the industry to try to understand what stops them from launching those things, and try to come up with a set of recommendations that will help ease the process of implementing drone. That's the research that's supported by the university currently.
So am I imagining highways then, or is it going to be like random right?
You are
and
right,
left?
actually. You
Okay.
spotted.
So it has to be highways.
The same way we regulate the traffic on the roads, we'll have to regulate the traffic on the sky.
Okay. There's no other way, because you can't...
People are working on what they call also UTM, but is the unmanned basic traffic management, unmanned vehicle traffic management. There will be some set of rules. The same way we have, let's say, corridors when you fly planes, we'll have to have corridors when you fly, for instance, drones.
Okay.
So those type of things are not yet ready.
The other thing that I also knew about is this whole... I forgot the exact name, but line of sight, meaning
exactly.
There's some specific regulations that if you need to fly a drone, there's someone, or I wasn't sure if it was someone, or there's a control that need to see the drone at all time.
Yes.
And
that's
only
what we call visual line of sight.
And that has now currently in the US, they finally gave the okay not to be on a visual inside. But
exactly.
Is that a game changer in terms of how we operate?
Well, it will. We have to reach that level, and I'll tell you why. Currently, as you said, most of the regulations, all countries will require this visual line of sight.
Right.
Okay, for safety reason. What it means is basically for someone to operate a drone, the operator first must be licensed, must go through training, must have some aeronautic, let's say, minimum basic knowledge about how it works. Then operating the drone, while operating the drone, I must keep a visual and a direct visual line between the drone and the operator.
So he has to see the drone.
He has to see the drone. Doesn't mean that he has to stay in a fixed location. He might be moving while the drone is moving, whatever it is, but he has to.
So he has to see it at all times.
He has to see. That reduces basically what we can do in terms of application with drones, and also in terms of cost.
Yeah, I was gonna come to saying,
because if you want to make a delivery today, a drone delivery, the cost will be very high because of the human cost. Now we will have to reach time where that same operator can, let's say, send maybe 20 drones, 10, 15 drones at the same time and control them. And that's where technology is needed to support that. Now, that will call for maybe a different perception or different definition of what we call visual line of sight, because it's no longer one, but now maybe 10, 15.
How do you control all those at the same time?
Maybe through devices or whatever, but that will come. This is one thing. The next step will be to basically allow, as you said before, like in the US right now, they allow the beyond visual light of
that's what they beyond visual line of sight. Yes.
Of sight, yes.
Correct.
Now, in order to qualify for that, you have to submit to the FAA. Lots of explanation about how you're going to control it.
Yeah.
To say that the challenge is how we're going to monitor those drones when we launch them. I think there was, they did, I think, in Abu Dhabi, one experiment, where they were sending a drone for about, I think, 7 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. So technology is ready. Ready is a big word. Technology is there to support that.
Right.
But readiness in terms of full-fledged implementation will take time. As I told you, for instance, they're designing a network of drones and facilities that will serve other big use case, let's say. Okay, but currently in the UAE, you cannot, use a drone without an operator.
Yeah, which makes, because we were just kind of like at Lyve or any similar logistics company, big or small. Obviously, technology is nice. There's advantage to it, but cost comes into play. So one of the biggest deterrents of this would be cost, because if you need an operator plus the machine to do it, and you have all these limitations, you're going to be comparing it to what you use now. And I give this comparison because we also did some testing on robot delivery not long ago.
Okay.
And during the testing, one of the things that we were working with the partner at that time was, you tell me what the cost, if we want to use this on a daily basis, which is nice, which is good, we have to make sure that the cost is comparative to what we are being charged now.
Yeah.
And if it's a little bit more, it's understandable because I can charge it back or as an option to the consumer saying, do you want green delivery or do you want robot delivery or drone? Then maybe I can charge a bit more because it's something new. But it cannot be the cost is X and the other cost is 10X. That doesn't work. And that's where all these new technologies are good, but it goes back to unit economics at the end. Does it work?
Well, it will work. This is my take on that. Currently, as you said, and because of the main aspect we mentioned, that an operator needs to be there for a single drone. Cost is about $13 for delivery in the US.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But the good news is customers are ready to pay the extra.
Okay.
When it comes to sustainable solutions, when it comes to, let's say, more advanced technologies, usually customers are ready to pay the extra money.
Right.
Okay. And companies are edging on those usually to change their pricing strategies. Now, coming back to the drones, as I mentioned, cost is relatively high right now because of that 95% of the cost right now is coming into human.
Okay.
Human resource, basically.
Okay.
Good.
Exactly. Yes.
The day we are able to spread the cost into, let's say, 10, 20, drones at a time, you can see that the cost will go down to $1.
And I think it's the same thing.
That is coming.
Yeah. It's the same thing that happened in robot delivery.
Exactly. It's the same.
They needed to have a person looking at the robot and walking not far. And then after a while, they let it go by itself. And then they could spread one operator on multiple robots. Then the cost of the human operator went down because it spread. Then it became cost effective. So it's the same journey that's going through the drones.
Exactly.
So that makes me go into kind of the third bucket. So latest trends and the challenges. What is the latest that's happening? I mean, I'm assuming it's in the US. Maybe there's other countries that you can mention, but what is the latest thing that is kind of, okay, this is happening now. This is what we should expect to come or to spread in other countries after that?
Actually, US is not the first to use drones for delivery.
Okay.
It has, there are many applications elsewhere in terms of service. Actually, Zipline has implemented a lot of drone delivery in Africa, for instance, in the healthcare sector.
Okay.
In Ghana, in Rwanda, for instance, because of course limitations are not the same in terms of the let's say I want to say the geography is slightly different. Here we're talking about rural areas and we're talking about long distances.
The road network also probably is not as developed, or it's more about kind of these countries are okay with
it was mostly in the healthcare sector again. And basically linking hospitals, collecting lab samples, and this stuff. Those solutions have been there for more than 10 years in Rwanda, the like of Ghana, and so applications of drone have been there in the market. When it comes to urban areas, that's where new applications are coming, where the challenges are there. Even in US, for instance, the first applications were in rural areas also, like in what I mentioned with Zipline, right?
Right.
Many companies now are investing in the area, Wing, for instance, for Alphabet, all those are coming up with some, let's say, different strategies, different technologies, but all to support, this new wave of applications in the drone industry. Now, what's the latest? The latest is just, trying basically to come up with some model, as you mentioned before. Right now, for instance, you can get deliveries from supermarkets in the US. Okay.
Right.
So, and that's in line with what you mentioned before. This change in the regulation is facilitating that. Okay. The Federal Aviation Authority is giving now license for beyond visual light of sight, which is the process of implementing this drone technology.
Good. Okay. And what didn't work? Was there something that they tried and said, okay, let's forget this. It's not going to happen? Because I remember the big companies, obviously, Amazon is kind of the biggest in e-commerce, and they've tried multiple things. They called it Prime Air, I remember.
Yes.
But it seems to have gone through a lot of ups and downs and issues. I don't know if they stopped it, then relaunched it.
No, so Prime Air is still there.
Still there. But is there kind of some challenges that they just not able to overcome? Or are we now in the clear, all is good, we should just get it more adopted?
I think that the most fundamental, hurdle for all these companies who've tried before was regulation.
Okay.
Regulation needs to move forward.
Right.
We need to open, let's say, more venues for applications, and let's say ease little bit all these regulations. If we're talking about, as I mentioned before, today the things are changing, but we need more research, more, let's say, technology to support the challenges coming. And I mentioned part of the challenge, saying that when we will be sending different companies will be sending drones, we will need obviously to get the data. Where is your drone? What is the location of your drone, for instance, compared to the location of the drone of someone else?
Right.
These two drones may need to communicate, otherwise they may collide. Now, what technology to support there? Blockchain, for instance, can support that.
Okay. Blockchain can give the locations.
Yes, because your GPS data will be stored on a blockchain that can be public.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay.
So those things, for instance, will definitely support the changes in the technology, which will support definitely changes in the regulation. I think technology should come with solutions, then regulation will adopt those solutions. Now, when you start combining, for instance, blockchain to AI, where you can have, let's say, the plan for the day for, let's say, any company, you name it. When we aggregate all this data, when we know the positions, when we can predict basically what will, let's say, the sky look like after an hour, and so use those kind of advanced models, we will be able to make it safer for everyone. Now, part of the regulation, for instance, other issues, for instance, that are in the regulation, you cannot fly over a house, over people, or for privacy purposes.
So you have to fly always over a road.
So how can we manage all this if not that we use supporting technology like of blockchain and AI? So the next move, I think, solution will come from that part, where we'll be able to basically oversee and use traffic management, let's say, rules as we know, to create corridors, to create rules. Then drones will be able to fly.
Okay, and
there is a journey. It's not.
It seems to be a very long journey. What do you think is the timeline? Like, what do you think is when we'll see a network coming up?
There are a lot of initiatives currently even in the UAE building the infrastructure.
Okay,
there are companies that are being. Okay, there are many things. Drone needs to communicate to drone, but drone needs to communicate to infrastructure. If someone is monitoring today the traffic, they have to have devices somewhere where the drone will communicate to that device to say at least where I am, where I'm going, and so.
And there has to be a central place, kind of like air traffic control.
Air traffic control. So those type of communications and the infrastructure for communication needs to be, set to allow deployment of, large deployment of drones. This is being done. Okay. I know of, I forget the name of the company. I think they signed, for instance, a contract with in Ras Al Khaimah, for instance, to build kind of a drone port.
Okay.
Yeah, that is there. Though a lot of things are being, done in the.
That takes me to the UAE. We were talking about the world, but so we've mentioned the UAE across the whole thing. But if we can summarize, I read that there was, and probably there's more that happened, but there was on the news, I think 5-6 months ago, there was a test being done in Dubai, Silicon Oasis, in collaboration with multiple entities that were involved in it.
I think Dubai Future Foundation. Maybe.
Correct. And they were delivering medicine to a person in a villa.
Yeah.
That was one of the pilot they did.
Again, healthcare.
Again, healthcare, but for a consumer.
Yeah.
So what's happening now? Like, what is the latest? Because obviously UAE has a very big and ambitious plan on sustainability. There's all these big 2050, 2030, all these plans. And one of them is autonomous vehicles, autonomous delivery, drones, flying cars. I saw now there's going to be driverless taxis on the road.
That's true.
So we're more and more moving into this. But where are we in drones? Like, you can talk UAE first. Maybe we can talk about other countries in the region. But let's first look at the UAE.
UAE has been known to use drone a lot, actually. I just mentioned before what's going on in Abu Dhabi, for instance. Correct. Okay, in Dubai we have what you call the drone initiative.
Okay.
Also, but if you just go back to COVID-19. I don't know whether you were aware of it or not, but they used drone alone during the COVID-19 for different applications.
No, I wasn't aware. No.
Oh, okay.
No.
In Dubai, for instance, they use it to to spray the public areas.
I saw that. Yes. I thought you were talking about maybe logistics, but yes.
No, not logistics. I remember, but just to say that
I remember this.
Drone applications are there. I mean, when we talk about drone, it's not only logistics.
Correct.
But in terms of applications in the UAE, there are a lot of applications that have been there.
Well, I've seen them on the beach once.
Exactly. Also in agriculture, they use it to spray the field, for instance.
Right.
During COVID, they use it also with cameras and so to basically monitor behavior of people.
Right.
More than 4,000 people fined during COVID using drone.
Okay.
Dubai, in Sharjah also, the Sharjah, I think police, they use drone also to alert people to monitor the. So there are a lot of applications of drone in the UAE. Now, when it comes to logistics, also, I mean, many companies are piloting things, and most of them are still in the idea of I have a warehouse or I have a fixed location. I'm sending a drone. Where I think when it comes to what can be done, it goes way beyond that.
Right.
Applications are very much focused right now into single use of drone and single, let's say, delivery. Where, let's say, from our side, I mean, from a research point of view, we know how to handle moving vehicles, moving a truck, what we call a hybrid system, having a truck and a drone combined to form a delivery system. We know how to handle them. We know how to optimize them. We know how to set the routes, single drone, multiple drone, all this. From a research point of view, a lot of things are there to optimize the delivery process, to cut the cost, as you said before. Okay, we know how to do it, but it's not yet implemented. We need maybe someone to come forward to say, let's move to the next step.
Right.
And maybe something that we will eventually
look into it. Yes.
Look into with. By the way, we started some kind of initial talk with Ghibli, which is a sister company of Lyve, in order to work on those type of things. For instance,
there's always an interest, and I can say that we've constantly talked about it in the past 2 years with the tech team. I mean, there was also the tech team discussions because the tech that we use to dispatch have to also talk with the drone and become like one of the options.
Yes.
It's the same thing as any autonomous delivery. And so on the tech, there is more readiness than the actual operations.
Yeah.
On the tech, they say, we're ready. It's an integration. We'll treat it as another vehicle. We can send coordinates. We can send where it has to go. But then who's going to operate the drones? And then we go back to...
That's where the regulation basically is important. And it's important that we kind of investigate what's needed for companies like yours, I mean, to be on the road.
And are we now, do you think we're 1, 2, 5 years away of
I would say 5.
5 years.
I
not
mean,
before 5 years.
Yeah, for implementation, large scale implementation,
5 years.
minimum 5 years. Yeah.
Okay, so at least I'm not going to see a drone in front of the buildings anytime.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure whether you will ever see I mean, it would come a day, but sending a drone of
it's not safe, anyways.
Not only safety, privacy is a concern. But
correct.
There are solutions also when you start using, for instance, blockchain. You can do a lot in terms of safety also.
Okay.
This might not be the place to mention certain things, but
no.
I mean, I know we can. I mean, the privacy part, for instance,
right?
We can take care of it.
So I guess fifth element is not anytime soon, which is good.
No, it's coming. No worry.
It's not there. So just to conclude, so what would you say to logistics companies, or what should we do next? Like anybody in the logistics area, what should we do next to get this moving?
I think to get ready. How do you get ready? I mean, by piloting solutions.
Okay.
By linking yourself from a research point of view to universities, for instance.
Right.
We know how to study those things. We know eventually how to develop drones. Right. At AUS, for instance, just give the case of AUS because I'm from AUS.
Yeah.
We have a drone academy, for instance.
Okay.
We can train people in terms of using drones. I mean, our colleagues in mechatronics, for instance, they are making a lot of drone applications, like cleaning the cleaning of the PV panels, for instance, those type of things.
Right.
Although a lot of solutions are there using drones. From a research point of view, I think it will be interesting to see companies, logistic companies, coming to universities, and together we can, let's say, think how the industry should be in this region, for instance. Because at the end of the day, even if regulation is open, we still need to design the solutions.
Yeah, of course, which also makes like economic sense. Because
Exactly.
at the end, it's the solution that makes economic sense.
And also, I mean, we need to look at, for instance, what are the type of deliveries we make here? What's the size of the boxes? How many can go into? Those needs to be looked at. The alternative is just to go and pick whatever is done elsewhere and come
and copy it here.
Copy it.
Yeah.
While we can do the same. I think we can design our own solutions. We can be, different because our market is different. Our requirements are different. So, yeah, it's up to the industry also to open their doors to universities to basically try to find the solutions for tomorrow.
Definitely an area that we should all invest. It's the future at the end. Even if it's 5 years, we have to prepare from now to get there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming to the to Lyve Talks. It was a pleasure having you here. I think it's a very interesting topic.
Same here. Yeah. It went too fast, actually. I didn't see the time going.
It's all good. So thank you for joining us for another Lyve Talk episode, and see you next time.